Yes, good afternoon. This is Greg Sykes from Greg Enterprises. I am going to go over some stuff that we're working on in my Cisco, actually the Global Learning Group. And today we're going to discuss GNS3. Now this is the website that we have, Greg Enterprises, that has all of the resources and the projects that we're doing currently for our organization. If you go to www.gregenterprises.com and click on the next link, you'll see that it'll come up with somewhat my organization, my routers and my systems that you actually can hook to virtually. And we have a whole bunch of projects. My infrastructure. This is my infrastructure that you'd be actually looking at in the background with all the IP addresses. And then we have the projects. And most of the projects that we're going over today are listed in some kind of order here. Everybody that is a part of the organization is kind of working on one of these projects or maybe multiple projects, as you can see here. We also have some resources at the bottom of the page that you can actually look at, all the Linux commands, AIX, LDAP, anything that you need to find that we've worked on in the past. I try to hypertext or hyperlink to these icons, and I would suggest that you go through them. There's a lot of information here, and we add from day to day. The website is updated just about every day. Now, in order to join this organization, you have to register, and you would pretty much register from this link here. It should take you to this sign up screen, and all you have to do is hit sign up, and you'll be able to put in your information, and the request will come out to me. And within 24 hours, I should get back to you in reference to this and give you as much information as I can about the site and Greg Enterprises. So what I want to discuss today specifically is I want to talk about some of the projects that we're doing in reference to GNS3. I want to specifically touch on GNS3. Now, we do a lot of things in Packet Tracer, but a lot of you guys are not familiar with GNS3, and I want to talk about that. Now, number one, you need to load GNS3 from the site www.gns3. Once you load that particular program, it should come up to this here. Now, I already have it loaded on my program. On my system. So you're just going to click on GNS3, and it should start to come up. As you can see here, it starts a graphical interface, and it comes up. Now, this is exactly what's going to come up when you load GNS3. GNS3 comes with a couple of packages. It comes with Wireshark, which is here. And it also comes with, the new GNS3 comes with SolarWinds, which you'll be able to actually look at your packets and look at what comes in reference to request time. It will tell you specific information about response time and your data volumes and all of that. And it comes loaded with GNS3, the new GNS3. So, just so you know. Wireshark is a network protocol analyzer. Any network professional will have to know about Wireshark because it actually gives you information specifically on packets that go across the network. So we're just going to bring this up real quick. I'm just going to capture a package from Microsoft. And this should start to load. In progress, and as you can see, it tells you the source and destination address, what protocol is being loaded. It's what's being acknowledged, what's being sent out. Wireshark is a very, very powerful program for a network engineer or a network administrator because it gives you information about the network. The same token, you should really be familiar with programs such as NetStat, which will actually give you the TCP protocol and where the listening state of the device and what address you're at. Another good program also to know is traceroute. You can actually do a traceroute. Let's just do one right here. Let's do one to gregenterprises.com. And yet you can see with the traceroute, it's starting the packets. It's doing a hop count from router to router. So it starts in Raleigh, where I'm at currently, and it'll actually tell you where this server, Greg Enterprises, will end up. It goes through the packets, through the IP addresses. It'll tell you how many hops, how many counts, how many seconds it takes, and where the IPs are going. Just so you get a familiarization of what's going on with the network. This is all network tools that you should be familiar with. As you can see, look at the addresses that it's going. It went right to Raleigh, now it's going to Poughkeepsie. It had to do all these hop counts just to get to that destination. And it's always good because if it fails, you'll actually know where the failure is from router to router, from hop count, from hop to hop. And now we're in New York, Tampa. We're getting close to the end here. So imagine this, it's going across the country just to get to Greg Enterprises. Okay? So we ended up in Tampa. And that's where the web hosting is located. It tells you where the address is. 216.110.114.2 is the address in Tampa, and that's where my web hosting is. Okay? So getting back to GNS3, two things you're going to have to remember about GNS3 if you cancel here. One, if you go into your preferences, the first thing it's going to ask you to do is you're going to have to make sure that your preferences are set up in GNS3. General preference, these are generic things that loads. Now, all my images, my project directories, my projects are in GNS3. You may want to pick a place where you have your images because you're going to need an image for each package, and I'll give you an example on that. I put it in downloads, and all my images for the routers are in downloads, as you can see here. These are all router images, 1700, 2600. These are all images for the router, and these are images that you can download off the site. If you go to cisco.com with CLN, you'll be able to get these images. These are all images for the routers that you're going to need. You may not need all of them, but sometimes you may have a specific router that you may want to use when you're doing GNS3, and it has to recognize these ISOs in order for GNS3 to load. So you have to make sure that when you go into GNS3 that you put that in the preferences here. Okay? Also, it has something called Dynamips, which tells you what your UDP, this is all standard stuff that will be loaded, where your working directory is going to be at. You can actually test the settings to see if everything's working. If you hit a test, this will tell you if GNS3 is working properly. And generally, you should come back with a message that says successful. As it sees here, with Dynamite successfully. So capture also is, the Wireshark is a capture that when you load it at, that's what you're capturing your protocols with. And this is all generic stuff that's going to be automatically put into GNS3 when you load it. And QMU which basically tells you what the path is for certain devices, like the ASA device. This is all generic. You won't have to touch this. You may have to increase your RAM if you needed more RAM with GNS3. Like, say, for instance, if you needed to buffer up your RAM. Let's go to 1028. And it's certain requirements with GNS3. GNS3 is going to be very slow if you don't have enough RAM or CPU, your processor. So make sure that you have a pretty powerful system in order to load this, because it'll be really slow if you don't have this information. Also, VirtualBox, which will give you the VirtualBox settings for the paths. This is pretty generic as well. Okay. So what normally with GNS3, what it does is it works just the same way as Packet Tracer. I'm just going to give you a generic thing. All your devices are on the left here. If you wanted to bring out a device, let's just say you want to bring out a router. You can just drag out a router to here. And you want to say what kind of router do you want to drag out. So let's just say I want to drag out a 3600. So it's going to ask you, first thing it's going to do is going to look for the image that you have that router on. And it's normally a bin file. So mine is in downloads. Okay, so you need this image. This 36 image is going to be in your downloads folder, as I mentioned before. In downloads, this 36 image. See, all my 36 images are going to be in downloads. So this way, when you go in here and bring this up, it's going to go and it's going to load that image. It's going to load that from that. Okay. You can bring out a switch also if you wanted to. Let's say we want to bring out a switch. Let's say we bring out an Ethernet switch. Okay. And then it's going to give you the ability to be able to connect these devices. Let's just say we want to connect this device. So all you have to do is just click here. Or you can go in okay, you got to close this, I think, first. And you should be able to click this. Let's see here. This is the new GNS3, so I'm just trying to get a feel for this. You should be able to click this, and it should be able to attach these two devices. Let me just look at something in here. I'll try to do a manual device. Alright, sometimes what you need to do also is you need to configure your devices for the slots that's needed. And a lot of times, if you know your router is going to have slots on it, so you have to pick the type of slots that you want for these. Normally I would pick different slots for this router, so this way you'll be able to understand what's going on there with it. The same with your switches. You bring up the Ethernet switch. This is going to be VLANs for switches. Alright, so I'm not sure why it's not connecting, but let's just see. So, add a link. Okay, so what I did, I'm not sure why this isn't clicking, but normally this should click, but you could just right mouse click this, and then you can actually pick the port that you want to. All these ports are for this router, so just hit that, and you see there's a line that comes here, and boom, it's connected. The green means it's connected. Then you could just start up the device, and this is very generic, and your device should start up. Or you can click the router, okay, well, we got that done, so let's just escape out of here. Click the router, and your router should load. And you see you got the two green lights, which means we have connectivity to the router. And this is what a router looks like when it loads up. It does an emulation to your microcode, and it starts to load. And this is exactly what the Cisco router for the 3500 looks like when it loads up. In real life, this is exactly what it looks like. I mean, this is a simulator, but this is exactly what it looks like. So it's loading now. Okay, just like it was a baseline configuration, you can hit no on the baseline. And it will return just like if it was a regular line on CLN. Now it starts to load up all the interfaces. All the states change as you can see. The links start to change. It's doing a cold start on the router, and you're right at the command line. So if you know, if you're studying for your CCNA or your CCENT, this is part of the command line for a router, and you'll know you have to enable the interface when you first get onto a router. It changes the mode, as you can see there. It changes the mode. And from there you can actually do a show run or do any of your show commands from that. And it'll show you the baseline configuration for a show run. And this is stuff that you guys will probably have some familiarization to if you have worked with Cisco before. And GNS3 is all about Cisco. So it's doing a show run, it's building the configuration, and this is what your configuration looks like when it first loads up. So you're doing your show run. It's really not that much going on because we haven't done anything with the router yet. You do Control C to get back. Okay. Alright, so I'm just showing you some basic stuff. You can do a show IP interface brief to show your configurations, what's up and what's down. Right now we haven't put any IP addresses on the devices, so it's in a down state. Okay. Now, so this is a very basic. This is very basic. You can move it around. Very basic. Now I'm going to show you what I'm working on because I'm working on my CCNP, and I'm going to show you we're going to quit out of this. We're not going to save this. Wireshark is still going in the background. We could probably close this down. Quit without saving. I'm going to show you a basic. I'm going to show you something that's a little bit more sophisticated so that you'll be able to. This is another layer 2, layer 3 topology, but right now I'm studying MPLS, which is also a protocol like OSPF that I loaded a topology on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to execute GNS3, and that's going to show you the bigger picture on how powerful GNS3 really is. So you got the basics on how to load it. You know how to set up. You need you need to have your images in a certain place. This comes up again. What we're going to do is we're going to open a topology that I've already built. Open a project that I've already built. Okay, and you can see it defaults to there. I keep my projects in a certain place on my machine, and as long as you point it to the right project, the right folder, it'll always go to that folder. So my folder is in GNS3 projects, and I'm doing this MPLS project. So I got a couple of things going on. Let's just do the troubleshooting.net. And everything has a .net to it, and I'm going to show you how you can actually go in there and make sure that that .net file is set up right. Because if that .net file isn't set up right, then you're not going to be able to. It'll give you an error. So you have to, when you go to this .net file, you have to make sure that your directories are put in place, pointing to downloads for your topology. And this is the topology that I'm working on. That looks a little sophisticated here. Okay? We have your routers. We have a frame relay. We have more routers. This is tunneling here. We have IPv6 that's going over here. IPv6, this is all set up in IPv6, which is something that is going to be studied for in your, when you go to take your CCNA. That is going to be part of the curriculum to learn that as well, your IPv6. So let's just say the same thing. So I did the same thing. I took my routers out, I attached them one by one. I hooked it to a frame relay switch. I attached it. This is all serial lines, by the way. See, this is all serial, like point-to-point lines. This is probably Ethernet cables going to and this in the real world, this is how it works in the real world if you're doing networking from site to site to site to site. This could be California. This could be New York. This could be North Carolina. This is how the routers go from site to site. Just like we've seen with Greg Enterprises, they're going from site to site to site, from one address to another address to another address. Every address is different, and you'll learn this when you study your CCNA. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start the one router. You see it automatically turns to green. I'm going to bring this up to show you the same thing happens as before with the images. It starts to load Dynamips, and it loads the image that I set up on this router. And when we do a show run this time, you're going to see a lot more configuring because I actually configured this router. And it's loading the iOS. And we're at the bottom here. Press enter. See, it doesn't have a baseline configuration, so it's actually loading the configuration that I already have configured. As you can see, a lot of my devices are already an up state. So the same thing before, you can enable the device and do a show run, and you're going to see how my show run looks different because it's a lot more now for this particular router. As you can see here, it loaded the base configuration, and what I did with this particular, I set up this router. I changed the host name to web server. I did a boot start marker. These are all commands that you'll learn when you're going through your CCNA. No IP domain lookup. You can just hit enter for more to see what else I did. I put an IP address on the interface, 209, like you said before, 209.65.200.200.241. And I gave it an IP mask here, stuff that you're going to learn in CCNA. And then, so as you can see here, this is what I did. I can hit more to show you more. We set up a server, a HTTP server, and did IP forwarding and an IP route command to get to the next route. Okay, and I think that was about it I did on that router. Line console 0 is to set up security on your router. This way you can telnet in, and that's what that router looks like. If you do a show IP interface brief, you can see that my devices are up. Fast Ethernet is up. Fast Ethernet 01 is unassigned. Whenever if you didn't put an IP address on a device, you'll notice that it will be in a down state. But by putting the IP address on the device, it automatically turns to an up state. Once you do a no shut command, it would automatically go up, which means the device is up, and you're able to ping that device. So let's just do one other thing. Let's just bring this device. Let's start this device here, and you can see this device came up, and I'm going to hit start with this next device. This is a router outside device. It's a web server here, and this is a router outside device. I made this as a web server, and the nice thing about this is a web server. But if I wanted to change the icon on this, let's just say it looks like a router. A router is really, just a generic term for a device. But you can actually change this device. If you wanted to change this device, you could change the symbol to this device. And you can make this device any one of these devices on the list here. But right now, for whatever the purpose is, it is a web server. So if I said server, look at that. So it looks more like a web server. See that? See what I just did? It's going to do the same thing, but I just changed the symbol. So now it is a web server. Okay? So that means, let's go back to this here. And you should be able to come here and see the second device, which is still coming up. Do an enable here. It's asking for a password. I made the password Cisco. Do a show run for this one. And you can see here that in this particular case, we had set up security on this. Okay? We enabled a secret password, which is part of Cisco, that will encrypt. This is doing a cryptographic encryption, so that this way nobody would be able to break into your router. Okay? You go through that. You can see I set up an IP address on this as well. And I set up an IP address on the serial on the serial device as well, as you can see here. You can hit enter for more. And I think I did a router. I'm setting up BGP on this router. BGP is a protocol that is used as a routing protocol. Alright, one other thing I wanted to talk about. So this is basically it. These two devices are up, and everything I can just click these devices on and they'll stay up. Everybody is on our group that we have here. Greg Enterprises is on Skype. Eventually going to turn this over to a classroom learning site. But if you once you join the group, we all collaborate. We have 26 people currently that's active on the group. If you come here, all these people are active in this particular group. And just for laughs and giggles, I just thought I had a message. Trying to get this information here. So let's just put it. Trying to get a hold of you. Alright, so now this is Skype. Basically, we collaborate the projects that I do from day to day on Skype. Once you join the group, Greg Enterprises. And this is a guy that is part of my group. He's studying for his CCIE. Okay, so we're pretty much at the end of learning GNS3. This is going to give you some information on how to load GNS3. There's a lot of videos on YouTube on how to set up GNS3 if you wanted to get more in depth on it. But the only way to start is to load it on your machine and just play with it. Oh, one other thing I wanted to show you, talk about the Netfile. That net topology file is really, really important because that's the file that's actually bringing up the system. So I just want to show you that real quick for GNS3. So that, like we did this, it was MPLS, right? And we did troubleshooting. So if you right mouse click on the net file and you actually open it with WordPad or Notepad, I have WordPad that I open it with. This will show you exactly what this file is doing. It's working in a working directory. What's really important here is this line right here. See where it says image? My image are in download. Everywhere where it says image, you have to make sure that you have the path that you have your images at, which is the C600 jk.bin file. You have to make sure that that file is in this path, like I was showing you over here with downloads. Because if it's not in this path, your program will fail. So you have to go in and edit this file. A lot of people may send you a topology and their directory may be different. They may set their path up differently. It may be in a different path. If it's not set up in that right path, then the image will not, like in this particular case here, this image here obviously is, there should be a correction in there. I don't even know why that came up. So I would just take this here, copy it, and come down to this line here where it says image, and I would just paste it right here. And we just want to kind of give it a line here. So this way it's going to go to image equals G Sykes to downloads. You want everything to go to wherever that image is. It could be wherever. Everything else is gravy here. This is all standard stuff that's in this is where your slots are going for your file. But that path statement right here is what's really important. Let's just save this. Okay. That path statement is really what's important. Now, if you have any questions, you feel free to either Skype me. I'm at GSykes, GSykes 12601. That's my Skype ID. Or you can email me, which is gregs2030@gmail.com. Or you can go to www.gregenterprises and just post me whatever you need to post via the web, via the internship website. Just send me a note that you're interested, and then we'll try to get you in. All right, thank you so much. This is Greg Enterprises signing off for today.